Iran strikes continue. Trump tariffs Canada. Russia hits Kyiv. And monsoon chaos in India. Greetings, humanity. Let's grok the news. We cover the world's headlines. But first, a deep dive into the most important story in the world today. Dateline, Washington, D.C. The United States conducted a 10th consecutive night of airstrikes on Iranian military targets as the conflict with Iran entered its second week, with no ceasefire in sight. President Donald Trump said American forces hit command centers, missile sites, air defenses, and coastal facilities in retaliation for Iranian attacks that killed U.S. service members. Central Command confirmed the latest strikes targeted sites linked to threats against commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Explosions were reported near Bandar Abbas, Qasem Island, and other locations in southern and northwestern Iran. Iran's state media said that the attacks killed civilians and military personnel, while wounding hundreds more since the current round of fighting intensified. The Pentagon has reported nearly 100 American troops have been injured in Iranian strikes over the last 2 weeks. 2 U.S. service members died in an Iranian attack on a base in Jordan, with one still missing. A third American died in Iraq during the controlled detonation of a downed Iranian drone. Trump stated the strikes honor those killed and will continue until Iran stops its aggression. In this observer's opinion, they won't stop until that regime is utterly annihilated. Iran, of course, responded with missile and drone attacks on U.S. and allied positions in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan. Kuwait activated air defenses, and Iran claimed strikes on American HIMARS systems. Shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global energy choke point, has largely halted, driving up oil prices and disrupting supply chains. The fighting erupted after an interim ceasefire and memorandum of understanding collapsed utterly. Iran launched drone attacks on commercial vessels, prompting the U.S. to reimpose elements of a naval blockade and to resume strikes. Mediators from Qatar and other nations are trying to restart talks, but both sides, of course, accuse the other of bad faith. Well, I know which side I believe. Trump has framed the campaign as limited and targeted, while warning Iran of far stronger responses if attacks on shipping continue. He has also said negotiations could resume, but only after American interests are secured. Iranian officials call the U.S. actions an existential threat and vow continued resistance. Well, this observer certainly hopes it's an existential threat. That regime should no longer exist. The conflict, which began earlier this year, has already claimed thousands of lives and displaced many more. Regional allies, including Israel, have raised readiness levels. The Houthis, backed by Iran, announced a new maritime embargo threatening Saudi ports and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, raising fears of a wider disruption to Red Sea shipping. Well, put the Houthis on the list as well. Inside Iran, power outages and infrastructure damage are compounding economic hardship already worsened by the sanctions. Supreme Leader's successor, Mojtaba Khamenei, has not made any public appearances since the death of his father, adding uncertainty to Tehran's decision-making. Funeral services for the late Ayatollah Ali Khamenei continue endlessly amid the strikes. U.S. officials say that the goal remains degrading Iran's ability to threaten international waterways without seeking full-scale regime change. Critics warn the tit-for-tat cycle risks uncontrolled escalation. Oil markets, of course, remain volatile, with Brent crude holding at near one-month highs. The administration continues diplomatic outreach while maintaining military pressure. No new ceasefire timeline has been announced. As of this morning, Central Command reports the latest strikes have achieved their limited objectives, with American forces operating from bases in the region and carriers in the Arabian Sea. Global leaders urge restraint. They always do. The United States, how do you win a war with restraint? This observer wonders. The United Nations Security Council is expected to discuss the crisis soon. More talking. For now, the cycle of strikes and counterstrikes continues, with the Strait of Hormuz remaining the central flashpoint for energy security worldwide. I'm Robert Gardner, using GROK each weekday to truthfully summarize the news, and I serve it up with my opinion. And I let you know when I'm opinionating. The rest of the time, it's hard fact. We review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world right after this. M.S. Gardner, that's my brilliant wife, is also author of Wolf's Bane, a dark, serious, modern take on that old fairy tale, Little Red Riding Hood. But this is a page-turning Southern Gothic story for adults. Wolf's Bane, available now at thecuriousauthor.com or amazon.com. Now, we grok the news with headlines from around the world. Dateline, Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump's primetime address last Thursday on election vulnerabilities continues to generate debate 5 days later. It should generate more than debate, and hopefully for much longer than 5 days. The speech declassified intelligence highlighting risks from China, Russia, Iran, and others, including the alleged compromise of 220 million U.S. voter files. Trump urged passage of the Save America Act, requiring proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote in federal elections. This observer thinks that's not too much to ask. Dateline, Ottawa, not too much to demand, let me say. Dateline, Ottawa, Canada. President Donald Trump signed proclamations imposing 50% tariffs on selected Canadian imports, including motor vehicles, alcohol, and dairy products. Officials cited unfair trade discrimination against United States industries. Canada called the measures a violation of USMCA commitments and prepared possible retaliation while exempting energy and critical minerals. Dateline, Kyiv, Ukraine. Russian forces launched a major barrage of ballistic missiles and drones on the capital region, killing at least 30 more people and injuring nearly 100. Ukraine reported successful strikes on Russian vessels in the Black Sea. A separate Russian attack on a merchant ship killed 4 Indian crew members, prompting diplomatic protests. Dateline, New Delhi, India. Heavy monsoon rains triggered alerts across more than a dozen states with risks of flooding and strong winds. In Sikkim, an under-construction tunnel collapsed, killing at least 8 workers. Farmers marched toward the capital protesting a proposed India-United States trade deal with barricades in Haryana. Dateline, London, England. Labour Party leader Andy Burnham was sworn in as the new United Kingdom Prime Minister following internal party changes after Keir Starmer became too toxic to lead. Burnham has signaled flexibility on fiscal rules, raising market concerns over government borrowing. Cabinet reshuffles are underway as the new administration sets its early priorities. This observer believes that what you're about to see in England is much more of the same. Expect the Labour Party to double down on every unpopular measure that they've taken lately, the two-tier policing, the out-of-control illegal immigration, all of that. There's just going to be more. Dateline, Phoenix, Arizona. Primary election results in this key swing state have advanced candidates for competitive congressional and gubernatorial contests ahead of November. Outcomes will shape battlegrounds where both major parties see opportunities to gain or to defend seats in a closely divided Congress. Dateline, Namche, Sikkim. Rescue operations continued at the collapsed tunnel site that we mentioned in this Indian Himalayan state. At least 7 workers died, with others still missing. Officials launched a safety investigation as the monsoon weather hampered efforts and raised broader questions about construction standards. Dateline, Brussels, Belgium. European Union foreign ministers labeled China a major strategic challenge, citing risks to economic security and its close partnership with Russia. The bloc is working to rebalance trade relations while preparing potential additional measures on technology and supply chains. Dateline, Jantar Mantar, New Delhi. Protesters from the CJP group resumed demonstrations over education reforms and the NEET Examination controversy. Activist Sonam Wangchuk has received court approval for hospital transfer after more than 20 days on a hunger strike. Several political parties voiced public support. Dateline Los Angeles, California. A federal judge has issued a temporary block on the proposed Paramount-Warner Brothers merger. A coalition of states argued that the deal would violate antitrust laws, reduce competition, and raise prices for consumers in the film and television markets. Dateline Beijing, China. United States lawmakers warned of continued Chinese efforts to acquire American artificial intelligence and advanced technologies through cyber espionage investments and ties in academia. Bipartisan panels highlighted risks to national security and the military advantages that could be gained thereby. Dateline Mumbai, India. Health authorities approved the country's first domestically developed dengue vaccine named Kadenga. The officials hope that the new tool will reduce the annual burden of outbreaks that strain hospitals during the monsoon season. Dateline Caracas, Venezuela. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez has declared 7 days of national mourning after the earthquakes have pushed the death toll above 2,200. Rescue teams continue searching rubble while international aid arrives to support affected communities. Dateline Paris, France. Extreme heat waves across Europe contributed to higher death rates in several countries, including France and Belgium. Authorities opened cooling centers and issued warnings as temperatures stressed power infrastructure and vulnerable populations. Europe needs to join the 21st century, or even the 20th. Air conditioning is not that difficult. Dateline Tokyo, Japan. Senior United States Space Force officials expressed alarm at the speed of China's military space program, including satellites and counter-space weapons. Congressional hearings underscored the strategic competition and the implications for regional security. Dateline Kabul, Afghanistan. The Taliban government has announced new restrictions on women's education and movement, drawing international criticism once again. Aid groups warn that the measures could worsen humanitarian conditions in the country, already facing economic collapse. Dateline Mexico City, Mexico. Health officials reported progress containing recent measles outbreaks, but urged continued vaccination efforts. The disease affected several states, with children representing most of the confirmed cases in areas of lower immunization coverage. Well, the measles vaccine is one vaccine that actually works. Dateline Washington, D.C. U.S. Border Patrol agents apprehended an FBI most wanted fugitive near the northern border in Vermont. Customs and Border Protection reported multiple large fentanyl seizures at southern ports, and the administration highlighted 14 straight months with 0 migrant releases at the southwest border. You see, it can be done. And I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.